Good morning, everybody. Want to welcome you to the Breast Cancer Metastatic Conference. I'm Dr. Josh Neiman. I am the scientific chair of this amazing conference. This is my third year helping Sharon and now Linda from New York to organize this. I want to welcome everybody on this virtual conference, which we will be hosting and having over the next month. And, while it's unfortunate that we can't meet in person like we have been doing for the past, while I've been involved the past 3 years, I believe that, the positive aspects of what is going on with our pandemic is that we are now able to have a coast-to-coast meeting, which will hopefully impact more patients, their families, and their caregivers, and educate them in all facets of breast cancer and metastatic breast cancer. When I joined Sharon in this wonderful cause and venture 3 years ago now, the reason I did it was because of one reason. As a academician, as a scientist, our jobs are not only to do cutting edge research, but also to involve and educate the community, and also learn from the patient community. Through the patients that I work with, the patient advocates that I work with, we learn as scientists as much from you as you do from us. And so that was one of the main reasons why I joined Sharon. The other main reason was actually Susan Komen has been integral to the research that I do, which is breast to brain metastasis work at USC. In fact, Susan Komen was one of the first foundations and organizations to fund the research that I do with my team at USC in Southern California. And because of that, the way I always look at it is sort of pay it forward. And it is this conference, while as physicians, scientists, we attend many conferences throughout the year, and now virtually, I have to say, this by far is one of my favorite conferences, because it really, the audience are the people that are living with this devastating disease. And it not only, allows feedback from you, but it really energizes all of the scientists and the physicians that come and join this conference and speak at this conference. Because what ends up happening is that you guys are our catalyst and our motivation to do the things that we are doing. While we have our own self-motivations and the reasons we are doing our research because of our passion and love, you add that cherry on top of that cake. And so I just want to say thank you for, joining us over this long month. Between the Susan Komen LA County and the New York branch, they have prepared an amazing conference. And the thing I want you to take away that, or put inside your brains is the partnership and learning. And specifically from the education days, and I'll be talking about it in a little bit, but the education days that we will be having throughout the month, please make sure that you connect with the speakers, connect with the physicians, the scientists, the social workers, because while this is virtual, this metastatic conference, breast cancer conference, is for you. I'll give you one story from my own research. So I am a bona fide, card-carrying neuroscientist. Like I mentioned to you before, my research at USC involves breast to brain metastasis and how breast cancer cells land in the brain and grow. One of the main projects that we have ongoing in the lab now for the past 3 years was actually started by the idea that I had when I spoke to a patient and a patient advocate. And it was the concept of chemo brain and what happens, with patients on, who are on chemotherapy and chemo brain. I'll give a little bit of a synopsis, but what ended up happening that day was, as I was speaking with this patient, and she was telling me uh, the journey that she was going through with her chemotherapy, this little light bulb went off in my head. And I started questioning her, and this became a very back and forth dialogue about what was going on in her throughout her treatment. And the seed started growing, and this project came out of it, and which is now a full forced scientific project, which she's still involved with as a patient advocate. We update them, her and other patient advocates. But the point here is that when you approach or go to a conference, or in this conference, make sure that you speak to, you come up and you speak to the physicians, the scientists. It's very crucial, and it's a two-way street, like I want to say, and it's this partnership, and I will keep using that word with it. And because of that, I think with your help, with your help and our daily passion and expertise, we will be moving, research even further with metastatic breast cancer. One of the in the next 5-10 minutes that I have remaining, I want to highlight is our research day, which we will be having on October 27th, which is a Tuesday. And the goal of this conference was to bring forward, like I mentioned, leading scientists and clinicians into this program so that you benefit from it, so that you can understand the metastatic process and the disease much better. So that whether you're a patient or you're caring for a loved one, whether they're a friend or family, you understand the scientific and the medical breakthroughs that we're making on a daily basis across the United States. And so on October 27th, we will be having our research day. And I just want to give you a glimpse of the speakers. Let me start sharing my screen with you. Oh, my screen sharing has been disabled. If I could potentially have the slides put up, that would be great. Let me make sure the screen sharing is on, because I had some slides for you guys. Let me see now. Nope, still not working. So, now I think it is. Thank you, Darren. I think we can all experience. Great. Let me start this is the perils of okay, great. So the Metastatic Conference, let me move this to the side so you can see it. So we will be having a research day on the 27th, and it's from 10 to 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So depending on whether you're on the West Coast or on the East Coast, please make sure. And it's also on the agenda, which is through the app, and the conference agenda, which is online. And so the goal, when organizing this, was to bring the top scientists and clinicians from around the country to share their knowledge and what their expertise is on what they're doing. And I'd like to just go through with this because I think it's really important. I think it really highlights one of this year's conferences, the conference agendas. And hopefully I want you guys to spread the word and let your friends and family know, because we are all coming together on the 27th because of you. So one of the first people that's going to start off the conference on that day is Dr. Danny Welch, who is, I'm sure many of you know, he is one of the most amazing scientists that I've come across with throughout my career. He's at the University of Kansas, and he has been involved with metastatic disease, throughout several decades. And Dan, I know he probably would hate if I said several decades, but I think it just shows you his leadership. And he will be talking about what are the hallmarks of metastasis. So what are the key things that breast cancers and cancers need to go through to spread. Uh, and then we have Dr. Peter Kuhn from USC, where I'm from, and he is a leading expert on what's called liquid biopsy and detection of tumor cells within our bloodstreams, and he's derived technologies that basically can isolate and characterize those tumor cells that are the cells that basically float through what I always call the pipeline of the body that's spread. Following that, we have Dr. Alana Whelm from Huntsman Cancer Institute at University of Utah. And Alana is an amazing scientist because she works on bone metastasis and precision medicine. And she's actually taken, this concept of bench to bedside. Some of the drugs that she has discovered are now in trials and are now working and are being tested on breast cancer patients. And I have to say, she is a Komen Scholar. So she is one of the world leading experts and an amazing scientist for the breast cancer community. Then we have Dolores Divizio. Dr. Divizio is at Cedars-Sinai here in Los Angeles. And her expertise is actually on, this is a very new field, I'd say about 5 to 10 years old. It's on vesicles, particularly extracellular vesicles. And what these are is that tumor cells, what they do, they are, what I always say, they are amazing and clever monsters. What they are, what ends up happening with extracellular vesicles is tumor cells use these little marbles. So if you imagine a cell, little marbles basically are shedded from the tumor cells, and these marbles contain packets of information where tumor cells send out throughout the body. And we're finding more and more that these marbles that have pockets of information on them. Not sure what that was. Basically, communicate with other cells in the body, and they sort of hijack the system, the body. And so she will be talking about that. Then I have one of my really good friends, Saul Priceman from City of Hope, and he is working on immunotherapy and CAR T-cell therapy for breast cancer, ovarian cancer, but breast cancer and breast cancer metastasis. And Saul is one of the leading investigators that basically is developing newer therapies, immunotherapies, to target cancer by harnessing the immune system. And so Saul, just like Alana, is taking his research and now applying it to the clinic through trials, which is one of he's on the leading edge of what therapy will be. And so I hope you tune in to speak with him and hear what he says. And then we have, these are the speakers in our first session. And then we have the second session, we have Dr. Cyrus Qajar from Fred Hutch, and he will be talking on the concept of what's known as tumor dormancy. So, the way cancer cells are elusive to therapy is because they sort of go into hibernation and they become what's called dormant, like a bear during the winter. And because of that dormancy or that hibernation state, they become resistant to a lot of chemotherapies, because chemotherapy, what it does is it divides, it attacks dividing cells, fast dividing cells. So one of the ways that tumor cells can escape chemotherapy or any type of therapy is by going into hibernation. And that's what he studies. And he is one of the leading scientists that is studying that. And then I'll be speaking after him on my research on brain metastasis. So what we do in our lab is we basically study the interaction of brain cells like neurons and astrocytes, and we study how those normal brain cells communicate with cancer cells, breast cancer cells that have arrived within the brain. And how do these breast cancer cells basically hijack the environment of the brain for their own benefit? Following me is, I would say, one of my mentors from afar, Dr. Patricia Stieg, which I'm sure many of you know. She's at the NCI, and she has been the leading researcher and pioneer in brain metastasis research. She will be talking about the blood-brain barrier and the blood-tumor barrier. And so what the blood-brain barrier is that our brains protect ourselves from everything down by having this sort of like this tennis net mesh around us. And what she will be speaking about is how do tumor cells change this barrier and thus allowing them to enter the brain and then grow. Following her, I have a dear friend, Carrie Anders, who is the clinical director for brain metastasis at Duke University. And Carrie will be speaking to us on brain metastasis and clinical trials pertaining to metastasis, specifically for brain metastasis, and also resistance in tumor resistance with respect to breast cancer. And Carrie has been a huge advocate for pushing clinical trials and having patient access to clinical trials for brain metastatic patients. And finally, we're going to have Dr. Kathleen Van Dijk from UCLA. And this is one aspect which, I actually am looking forward to her talk, is that she will be talking about cancer-related cognitive issues. As I mentioned before, we all know that chemotherapy causes various cognitive issues, and she will not only speak about that, but other cancer-related cognitive issues. So I hope that this is just one highlight in the month. And I know throughout the month, we, speaking of Kathleen, we also have, throughout the month, we have the Susan Love Foundation, who will be talking about the collateral damage as part of our program. But one thing I want to mention is that you guys should definitely join as much as you can and utilize not only the research aid which is towards the end of the month, but utilize all of the resources that we've put together within this month-long conference. And with that, I want to, again, really thank you for attending. I hope that this conference will be very meaningful for you, and I'm hoping that next year we will all meet in person, but potentially we learn from this virtual conference and make it even bigger and better, whether we to combine a virtual and a in-person meeting. Because the way I look at it, and I think it's very true, is that you have to make lemonade out of lemons. And I think that this conference, virtual conference from coast to coast, will set a hopefully a new standard for conferences for patients. And please, just the last word is, remember this partnership that I spoke to you about, that definitely interact with the speakers throughout the month, because you will never know what aha moment you will provide to another researcher, another scientist, a social worker. And so with your input, we will definitely drive metastatic breast cancer research forward. Thank you, and see you soon. Take care.